for the realMyst Masterpiece Edition review for the Nintendo Switch. Some of you may know, the original Myst holds a special place in my heart, as it was one of the first major games I ever saw on a PC. My parents were really into it in the late 90s, and while I didn't really help much with the puzzle solving, it was so much fun to watch them progress through the world. Since then, I've beaten Myst a few times over, but this is the first time experiencing realMyst, so let's see how it turned out. There's not much story to explain, as that's kind of one of the key components to the narrative. You find a book entitled Myst, and upon touching the open page, your character is warped to the land of Myst, which is an island with a handful of secrets. The original Myst played as a point-and-click game, but realMyst lets the player move through the world at their leisure. If you haven't played the original, you won't fully understand how interesting it is to just walk around on the island and go virtually anywhere you want. Now, that doesn't mean there are extra goodies to find or mysteries to solve, but it's still quite unique when compared to the original. The basic scenario is this. There are several different worlds, or ages as they're called, where in order to travel to them, you must find their linking books, and to do so, you have to solve specific puzzles for each one. When you finally enter a linking book to a different age, that age has its own set of puzzles you must solve in order to return to the Isle of Myst. So what's the point of doing all this? Well, I'll just say it has something to do with the red and blue pages you find in each world. This is going to be a short review, since there's not much to say about it. Now, that doesn't automatically mean it doesn't have much to offer. In terms of puzzle-solving games, think quality over quantity. Even though I've played through Myst several times and I knew the general areas and what I was supposed to do, that didn't mean I remembered everything or how to solve each puzzle. This one right here really took me a while to remember how to solve it. It took me roughly 5 hours to beat the game, but if you're new to it and enjoy puzzle games, that's key, I would guess it would probably take you in the 12 to 20 hours range, depending on how fast you can solve puzzles. It's tough for me to gauge the difficulty of each puzzle since I have a background with this game, but I would say the majority are on the moderately difficult side, with a handful of them being quite cryptic. However, I'm happy to say most, if not all answers and solutions aren't way out in left field, and if you can use critical thinking well, your chances of getting stuck are slim to none. Hooray for logic! If you're super stumped though, there's a huge in-depth hint system that's basically a walkthrough if you need it. Honestly, realMyst is probably more difficult to newcomers than the original, since there's now more area to explore. Looking around to make sure you didn't miss anything might consequently take more time than with the point-and-click version. The graphics hold up for a game that was released in 2014, however some areas seem to have too high of a contrast with the lighting, and in this world in particular, the frame rate dipped due to the amount of tree and branch assets around, which, I mean, come on. Compared to the original though, which I guess isn't exactly fair, but whatever, it's definitely a huge improvement. Some areas even have different weather effects, like in this age, it's after sundown with a thunderstorm present, whereas in the original it's a hazy day. Your character also gets to use a flashlight, which can be quite helpful in certain situations. The most disappointing thing about the game is the controls. The original was designed for mouse control, and just like with Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 or Super Dungeon Maker, it does okay for console play, but it's still a bit awkward and clunky. You can adjust the settings, which helps to an extent, but it's not perfect, and it's especially frustrating to try to move the cursor to a small target. Another thing is when pulling on levers, instead of the lever being pulled down, your whole perspective goes with it, almost like you're using your face to move the lever. At least there's only one to choose from.
Pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever!
Huh?
Why do we even have that lever?
Two control mechanics that I wish had been programmed was one, if the player pushed down on the right analog stick, the game would lock the player's perspective in place and only allow the cursor to move. This would have really helped with precision targeting. And two, change it so if you want to move out of an in-game device, you just press B instead of how it is, where if you tilt the left control stick just barely, or if you accidentally click on a non-clickable asset, you'll move out of the puzzle, which is of course quite frustrating. The soundtrack is extremely nostalgic to me. All the ages have ambient tones that help build each one's atmosphere, but some areas have actual fitting music too. Overall, it's a fun version of Myst, but if I'm being completely honest, I think I actually prefer the original point-and-click game. And to my parents, yes, it's just like Myst, because it is Myst! Hooray for Myst! This game gets a 3.75 out of 5 with the title of good.